Well, welcome everybody who's jumped in early. I'll just kind of wait till everybody hops on. If you want to take the poll that I sent out, that would be awesome. It's just kind of a little quick survey for what industry you're in. So if you just want to fill that out while we wait, that'd be awesome. Thanks. First response is construction, whoever that was. Thanks. DOT, looks like environmental services.
I love the incentive to fill the form out. You get a live shout out.
I know, right? Too bad it doesn't have a name with it. We call you out directly. Oh, telecommunications. Engineering. No surveying yet, which I'm surprised about. Give it a couple more minutes. Thanks for joining again. We'll get started here shortly. Alrighty, well, we'll get going. Looks like everybody's kind of jumped in who's going to join us today. So kind of in light of their recent hurricanes and that type of thing, we've wanted to kind of touch on restoring utilities after major disasters. Ken Smith has had a lot of great knowledge in that sense. He's had a lot of experience with Hurricane Ian back in the day. Brock Martin, he also has had some, or sorry, not Martin, Brock Daniels, owner of Daniels Engineering. He's had some really good experience with recovering those utilities, collecting that data, and following up those disasters and those challenges with that as well. So kind of what got me on to this topic, I think I ran down to Lily's office. I was like, look at all these linemen all lined up, ready to go right after the hurricane. So that's kind of what intrigued me to kind of get this webinar created so we could get some interesting topics around it. So reached out to Ken and Brock and they were willing to join us, luckily. So kind of a little bit of background there. Ken, do you mind introducing yourself really quick?
Yes, I'm Ken Smith. I'm a utility technician. I work for a gas company here in Fort Myers, Florida.
And Brock, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself as well.
Sure. Good afternoon. I'm Brock Daniels, owner, professional engineer for Daniels Engineering. And we do quite a bit of design and survey work here in the Southwest Florida area.
Nice. And Lily, you're going to be our host. So if you don't mind introducing yourself as well.
Yeah, Garrett, I appreciate the handoff. My name is Lily Kolish. I'm the Director of Product Solutions here at Point Me In by ProStar. A little bit about my background is in development and quality assurance testing of the product, but now I'm working a little more on site, dealing with the boots on the ground, training aspects, as well as, getting to host some of these webinars and picking the smart people's brains here. So Ken, Brock, I appreciate you hopping on here and letting me ask some questions and pick your brains as to your experience.
Perfect. Yes. And I just released a poll too as well. Are you dealing with the recovering of utilities after these disasters? Kind of an interesting topic. There's a lot of issues with disasters that happen with utilities. They get covered in mud, they get covered in sand, water. They may just be wiped out totally in that sense. So if you don't mind answering that poll really quick, just to see kind of where people are coming from, if they're trying to recover utilities or whatnot, or if they're just here for the interesting topic and seeing what we have to say. So looks like a lot of no's. So I'm kind of surprised about that, but regardless.
I'm glad. That's good.
Yeah, there's a lot of issues with that. I'm sure you understand that, Ken.
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll get moving forward here. Ken, I know you sent me over some screenshots you wanted to share. I think we'll start there, kind of your experience with these photos, and maybe just explain these a little bit more and how these came to be.
Yeah, so basically these photos are from Fort Myers Beach, and it's October 22, shortly after Ian had, came and did what it did to Fort Myers Beach. Again, just the destruction was just so total and so immense and almost undescribable. And again, these were a few photos that I felt that I could kind of share, just to kind of give people a perspective of kind of what we were dealing with. Again, you see the trees all beat up. And I think this was like early in the morning. So I just thought this was just kind of a fitting photo. But also, if you noticed in the photos on the bottom, you can kind of see I was able to kind of turn, and you can see there's a compass. Obviously, I took these photos with using the Point Man app. So when you do take a photo, it gives you more perspective of actually, okay, which direction were you looking, along with the GPS point that you actually took the photo. So I think this is a sterile boulevard, if I remember correctly. And I kind of turned and just took some photos in different directions.
Nice.
And of course, again, this is some more destruction on Fort Myers Beach. Again, just total destruction. Again, one of the biggest things is, I hate to say it, that if I lived on Fort Myers Beach in October of 2022, I probably wouldn't be here right now, because I just did not believe that this type of destruction is possible. But this is the world we live in now, and I'm a believer. I know that when they say get out, get out. And so, again, just the level of destruction, just tremendous. And again, it got me to questioning, how do we, me being a design tech, utility tech, how do we recover from this? How do we document the locations of, like, say, for example, facilities we cut and cap? Because if everything is leveled, now you don't have any landmarks to measure off of. And obviously, I've been dealing with Point Man for 6 years, and it was the perfect fit. So as the crews did go to the beach, I also went with them and captured, the locations of where we, disconnected and capped lines, so that we could come back at a later date and recover those, the facilities pretty much.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing these photos. Those are, important. You can see all the sand there piled up behind the building, and it's covering everything, and there's debris everywhere, also covering everything up. So I can imagine how difficult it is to find a utility after something like this happens. So thanks for sharing those. Lily, I'll stop sharing here and turn it over to you, like I said earlier. So
Yeah, Garrett, I appreciate that. But yeah, I'm super excited to be here today, talking with you guys about this. Reflecting on what current situations we're in here. This disaster recovery. Ken, I appreciate you sharing, your experiences in this. So in light of that, and Ian, as you mentioned in the photos that you shared, can you share some of the most significant lessons that you've learned? I know I heard you say, when they say get out, just get out, right? Can you share some of these lessons that you've learned, and especially regarding utility restoration, and how have these insights shaped your current approach to emergency response?
Well, fortunately, I also kind of wrote down my responses. But one of the biggest things I learned is that, what we assume was impossible is possible. So again, like you said, when they say get out, get out. And then sometimes, the only option is to disconnect portions of your assets in order, to basically restore the system. And then, of course, you need to collect information when you do that, so that when the customers are ready to be restored, you can actually, restore them in a timely fashion. Unfortunately, some customers restore early, but unfortunately, some customers take years to restore, because I literally just put out a service order to restore a service, and unfortunately, some never do. So that to me was just really one of the most significant lessons. Bad things can happen, and they do happen.
Absolutely. So in taking those insights and planning for the next storm, for the next situation, because if there's one thing that we can be certain of, in this time of uncertainty, it's that we will be put in these situations again. Mother Nature is pretty brutal, right? We've gone from Ian to Milton, and I'm sure there will be, more storms and disasters down the road. So how do you balance planning with the need for real-time adaptation during these disasters? And can you give a couple examples of maybe when things didn't go as planned and when your team had to adjust to those situations?
Well, yes, I mean, one of the things is that, you think you're prepared. We have our as-built, we have our GIS systems, and record drawings that are based on existing permanent landmarks. But again, buildings, curbs, roadways, facility markers, valve boxes, when all those things are wiped out, you have to kind of start from scratch using memory and whatever clues that you can find. So again, it helped me to realize is that even though we were rather prepared, because again, most utilities have all this information, the question is, what can we do better to prepare? Because again, we just never, you don't want to over prepare per se, but we didn't think what happened was possible. So now that we know that that's the case, now we need to take that into consideration as we prepare, to build back better, prepare for the future storms that will come eventually.
And I
Absolutely.
think Brock was telling us a little bit too before we started about his experience with, not really planning for such destruction and his office getting kind of wrecked. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, Brock?
Oh yeah. So yeah, during Hurricane Ian, we were situated in like a downtown Fort Myers area, surrounded by a lot of water, and you had a main waterway called the Caloosahatchee River. And it's just, no one really anticipated this type of storm surge that would come in. And then next day, and I even had people send me photos. They were on the second floor filming, like my office was near First Street, and it was like a river going down the road. And you never anticipate. I mean, your mind, you're thinking wind, wind damage. You're not thinking, a monsoon of water coming in. But it was truly eye opener for us. I mean, luckily we had the ability to get a new office fairly quickly. But for some people, it wasn't that quick to adapt, due to this damage from the storm. So, we took some lessons out of that, definitely prepare and, and to be mindful of, when they say storm surge or when they say, get out, you got to get out. You don't want to take any chances. But yeah, it was definitely an eye opener, and it really make you understand that this is serious business. And and like I said, the work we do on a day-to-day basis is primarily we do a lot of data collecting. So it's now you really see how important data is. I mean, you think about all the power poles that got knocked down. If I don't know if FPNL, which is our local power supply company, or LCEC, I don't know if they took an inventory of what was damaged prior to the storm, but how valuable it would have been to use PointMan to have an inventory of all the poles before they snap. To now, you can take your project manager or your contractor, say, hey, this is where we're going to replace the pole right here in this location. This is where it was before. Because you go in the area, you can't tell where the poles were at. I mean, they're snapped, they're pulled out of the ground literally. So it's not like you see the bottom of the base of the pole still there. I mean, it's literally, some poles are literally just taken out of the way. So it just shows you the value of a data collecting software like PointMan, how valuable it could be after, a natural disaster like that.
Absolutely.
Definitely. No, good points.
Yeah, Brock and Ken, you both touched on a few things, taking inventory, knowing where those assets are, that sort of collaboration of all the data when time becomes of the essence, right? So during the recovery of those utilities, and part of that collaboration, I'm sure you're working closely with various, government agencies, private entities. Brock, you mentioned, electric companies. What challenges have you guys faced in coordinating with multiple agencies? And what strategies have you found effective in fostering that sort of collaboration?
Well, I'll take this, Ken, first, and you follow behind me. What I noticed is that unfortunately the city, county governments, they were slammed. I mean, some cases some of the offices were damaged, and some of the employees had to work from remote. So the communication, you notice a lot of the permits started coming in a little slower. So you can see even governments, even local governments, they wouldn't prepare for this. So, it really shows you how important, the data that you're collecting is, because, now when we're submitting permits, we can show them, look, man, we're taking a great inventory of your area. So it could be one day, like I showed you guys before the webinar started. I mean, we cover such a wide area. We got an inventory of an area that probably the cities don't even know that they have. So we can leverage that data to help them, support their GIS system, whether it's letting them know where water valves are at, manholes, inlets, you name it. We got a significant amount of data that we can leverage to help the cities kind of like not necessarily build their GIS system, but at least support it. And now they might be thinking, hey, we need to have a better inventory of what's going on. We can be a great, partner in that case.
Yeah. And just to kind of add on that, one of the biggest reasons why they probably don't have the information is they probably didn't have a means of doing it in a cost-effective way. And that's the thing I like about PointMan. It makes it possible to do just that. And, just to speak on like the agency collaboration, one of the things is having good relationships with the authorities having jurisdiction, with the fire department, the police department, because again, having designated points of contact, that's essential, because a lot of times you'll need those authorities in order to enter damaged areas. I know with Fort Myers Beach, our company, cooperated and worked with local authorities in order to gain access to the beach. And a lot of times we had to be escorted out to the beach in order to, affect the repairs. So again, just having good working relationships and being good stewards and having that reputation definitely goes a long way.
Yeah, that reputation and especially the communication. I mean, Ken, I think you hit the nail on the head right there. It's that communication and effective communication, especially during outages and situations like this, being able to communicate with the public, with other entities, really anyone that you're working with. So have either of you picked up any successful strategies that you'd like to share for communicating and keeping everyone informed and safe?
Well, I'll speak on that a little bit. One of the things that utilities do, they most of the time don't have a spokesperson designated. And that's the thing, you just kind of have to let the process handle itself, because a lot of times that person has access to all of the information rather than just part of the information. And there's no more frustrating thing than to have, different people kind of speaking and just giving pieces of information. So again, just kind of cooperating, with the utility that you're working with and letting the process work, letting their liaison actually communicate. And, that way we can kind of give a complete picture that won't frustrate the customer, which is already frustrated enough as it is. So, just working with, I guess the system that we have, so to speak, very important,
Absolutely. And I think the best part of communication is when you do have all of that information, when you are able to provide the answers that everyone's looking for. And in that, I feel so the conversation of technology always comes up, right? Because that's the most effective way to manage either data collection, stake back, having all that information. So in response to technology and geospatial mapping in live time, obviously we understand that plays a critical role in part of this recovery process. And continuing to share how these tools have impacted your operations, what do you consider essential technology for this utility restoration process?
You want to get that one, Brock? You want me to start on that one?
Yeah, I'll pick it back off you.
Okay. All right, I'll go ahead and go. So, well, basically with the technology, most utilities have, Esri-based, system of record, and Esri is a really great resource. The only thing is that, a lot of times the data, you can't readily access it and put something on the ground. So that part is kind of a challenge. But again, that's where kind of PointMan comes, into play. If you have data in your Esri system, a lot of times you can actually export a KML file that would basically at least give you information based on what historical data they may have. So if you have GIS information in Esri, you can actually extract it as a KML file, send it to PointMan, and actually go and at least have some information. So some information is better than no information. Now with PointMan, on the other hand, let's just say if the information was gathered with PointMan or some other, centimeter accurate process, then you can actually use that data and use PointMan and actually stake back to those utilities. So in the event that, again, you have a hurricane that wipes out everything, you have basically, if with PointMan, you can actually walk back to the data centimeter accurate. And depending on if you have the cloud version or depending if you collected it with the particular device, you can actually get cut fill. So even though, let's say you have a mound of sand, and let's just say that the facility is like 3 foot under the ground, but that sand is 3 foot deep, you could walk over to that location and you'd get an indication that, hey, you got to dig down 6 feet to get to what you're trying to get to. So again, leveraging technology, leveraging, point man is huge. And again, some data is better than no data, but accurate data is always the best, in my humble opinion.
Absolutely. And Brock, did you mention there was something that you wanted to contribute to that?
Yeah, I just second that. I mean, he pretty much summed it up there. I mean, you figure, you know, everything is, like I said, everything is technology driven, right? So what better way to communicate than electronic filing in the form of a KMZ or KML? Because think about it, in case of a storm, you may not have the ability to go search the files for a paper as-built. Who knows? I mean, buildings might have gotten destroyed, records might have gotten lost, gotten damaged during a hurricane. So, having that electronic as-built just serves an invaluable, it's very invaluable in that case, as far as being able to take an inventory of what was damaged, being able to assess the damages, and then be able to come up with a solution to rectify the situation. So, I just think the technology appointment it speaks volumes of where utilities should be thinking about inventory in case of an emergency, like a hurricane or a tornado or any other natural disaster. How do you build back your infrastructure adequately, safely, and really cost effectively?
Absolutely. I know, especially in these sorts of situations, time is of the essence when you're working with these build back programs. So having data that's easily accessible, the ability to reuse it, and the most accurate data sets possible, based off of actual geospatial mapping. When everything above surface is wiped out, you don't have any references to go off of, you don't have landmarks. Being able to stake that back with a GPS based on that location in real time becomes, the bread and butter of what you guys do there. So I appreciate you sharing that. So switching gears a little bit here. When you guys are working with utility restoration, it often intersects with environmental protection and regulatory requirements. How do you navigate those factors when you're working under pressure in post-storm recovery scenarios?
You want me to go on that one?
Well, of course, you still have to. I mean, at least in my case, you think about it. You have to think about public safety, number one, right? So you're not out here, even though it's a mad dash for repairs and restoration, but you still want to still think about public safety. You still have to make sure infrastructure is installed correctly. If infrastructure is damaged, it has to be made safe, right? Whether it's a pipeline, needs to be cut and capped. If there's a gas line, needs to be make sure the gas is purged out of the line. So you're still taking the same precautions, the same design, construction standards if you were doing it in a normal situation. So, as far as regulatory situation, yeah, obviously it's a natural disaster. So, there might be a little relaxed on the permitting process, but from the utility or the engineer or the contractor, you still want to make sure you're doing this, with the public safety in mind, of course.
Yep.
And because you
Yeah.
guys are working on this on like a project by project basis, this is a mass scale situation. How do you encounter like mobilizing and managing your workforce during something that is such large scale as this? And how do you prioritize your resource allocation to get power back in critical areas first?
Well, basically the biggest thing is just that, again, like Brock had said, safety first, no matter what. If you have an inventory of your assets, it obviously makes it easier to plan, the response. So obviously you wouldn't want to send like a whole lot of resources to areas you don't have assets per se. But how do you know where that is? Again, having, good records and records that are readily available, whether again, it's a GIS, which again, ArcGIS is a very, valuable tool, a very powerful tool. But the bad thing about it is that a lot of times there's not really a way or a cost-effective way to actually, say, click on those particular assets and walk right to them. So again, just having centimeter accurate data is just, to me, essential and valuable. And of course, there's a lot of historical data that was collected, like with the Trimble Geo 6000s, which is spatially correct. So again, if you can leverage that, have a tool that you can walk back to it, that's where PointMan comes in. It makes it possible. But the biggest thing is you want to plan. You obviously want to go where, the problem is. You don't want to go where the problem isn't, and you want to go where the assets are. And the only way to really do that is, well, to know where they are, spatially correct. So, I mean, it's, having good data is just essential, and making, I guess, strategic and cost-effective decisions, because again, you don't want to waste the resources, limited resources you have, So knowledge is power.
Absolutely. So in terms of allocating resources, I'm sure when it comes to prioritization of restoration, I'm sure, a lot of those communities and stakeholders are probably fighting for time. They're fighting for the best data out there, especially when there's very few people who have the best records, kind of like you and Ken. Ken, Brock, even Sir Lawrence. You guys have some of the most accurate data sets out there, and that's kind of why we've invited you out here today. So in working with people who are fighting for that, how do you deal with the pressure from those various stakeholders, residents, businesses, local governments even, to restore their services quickly? And can you share maybe an example where meeting expectations for restoration was particularly challenging, or prioritization for restoration may have been challenging?
Well, I can only kind of speak, just from my limited experience. I guess kind of how it works is, obviously I'll have a customer, or we'll have a situation, or again, if we, in this case, like we had to restore a customer on Fort Myers Beach, I was able to use the data that I collected previously to expedite that. We didn't have to guess. We was able to figure out exactly where the asset was. We had to actually cut the line back a little bit in order to isolate some other service lines that we could not restore. But again, just having data just made it a breeze. We didn't have to guess. We didn't have to dig a whole bunch of holes unnecessarily. I mean, we're digging a hole this size versus a hole the size of the room. And again, it just makes a difference. It's efficient. Again, it's respecting our contractors, respecting our time, and again, it's just working smarter, not harder. I mean, why dig a hole bigger? Because again, the bigger hole that you dig trying to find a facility could actually cause you to damage facilities that you didn't intend on damaging. So again, just being able to be precise and to be able to just go in surgically almost and affect the repair, that's really what it's all about. And again, obviously it's like anything, PointMan is relatively new to the game. A lot of people don't know about it. And so what I do is, when people see me out doing my work, I just try to share the gospel. I just try to help them to see what I'm doing, how easy it is to do. And that's one of the things I try to, help people understand. This is really too easy not to do. I mean, again, the minimal setup, is a $500 app. Again, you have a Samsung tablet, GPS antenna, GPS pole. It's just too easy not to do. And so, that being the case, I just try to help educate the masses, let them know there is a better way. There's a better way of doing what we do, and a better way to affect recovery. And again, I don't know if, FEMA or some of these other governmental organizations actually even know PointMan exists, but I'm hoping that opportunities like this will kind of help us to educate them and help them see that this isn't, a gimmick. This isn't, just stuff that doesn't work. This is stuff that we use on a daily basis. And the whole point, I'm sure the government obviously wants to be good stewards of what they have. If there was a way to build back better, if there was a way to document the repairs in a better way, in a better fashion, so that, they can be more easily maintained, I'm sure that they would be game for that. And so again, if somebody told them that there was an app out there for only $500, we could use and leverage the existing equipment that they already have, like, again, these locate machines, GPS antennas, that's really, to me, how can you say it, the best way to, let me just set this down, I'll drop it. The best way to support recovery is to help others see that there is a better way. And again, let them know that we're not wasting their time. We're more than willing to show them, how to do what we're doing. And it's easy to do. Again, I'd say so many times, this is too easy not to do. Now, a lot of times what will happen is that when people do get this information, And of course, you saw the amount of information that Brock had. It may almost seem overwhelming. What do you do with it? Well, again, that's where we come in again. We're willing to show people how to, what we call eat the elephant. Well, the dog has caught the school bus. Okay, what does he do? Well, we're willing to show the dog how to take that bus apart. So again, it's just sharing knowledge, sharing experience, and just showing that there's an easier way. When they see how fast we can make stuff happen, and like when Brock, when he turns in those detailed, plans, I'm sure they're wondering where that information came from. So again, every opportunity that I have, and I'm sure every opportunity he has, we just share, hey, this works, this is efficient, this is going to get you what you want, the information you need so you can make intelligent decisions, about the limited resources that you have available.
Spreading
Ken,
the
and if
data.
you don't mind showing us the unit you use, it's pretty compact. It's pretty impressive what you're doing with such a
Yeah.
small unit. And you were telling me earlier too that you sometimes just jump out of the truck, turn it all on, and you're staking right back to stuff. It's pretty incredible the technology that you could be potentially using to find these utilities.
Yeah, exactly. So again, I know that Point Man is agnostic, but I obviously had to, look and see what I could find and afford. This here is a Samsung Tab 4 active tablet. You can buy them all day. You might be able to buy for like $500 a pop. A very rugged tablet. It's got a pen attached to it. You can drop it a couple times and it won't break. Again, it'll last pretty much all day as far as collecting data. So I have the Samsung tablet, and I would recommend you get one that actually has a SIM card in it because it makes it a lot easier. This here is an MLID RS2 here, but I actually have an RS2 Plus, and now the latest is RS3. The RS3 has tilt compensation, so that's a really nice feature, but we won't go there. But again, just the GPS antenna. And of course, we have the antenna protector, so that, if you're walking and if you accidentally drop this pole, this actually protects the antenna because, this is, I think, only $3,000. And I say only because a lot of these GPS antennas could be up to $30,000. This here is what I call the little brother. This is really fantastic. Again, this is MLID RX. They have a new model out, and it's the MLID RX MFI made for iPhone. It came out, I want to say, basically September 2024. So if you do buy one, make sure you get one that's been dated after that because it'll be compatible with the iPhones and also be compatible with, the Android devices. And literally this thing here, you turn it on, and I would say literally within 30 seconds, you can actually get a fix. Now, obviously, you need corrections that are available here in the state of Florida. They're free. So you can just subscribe, to the FPRN system, get your corrections. And, the nice thing about this here will actually connect to your tablet via Bluetooth. And so it doesn't have a SIM card or anything in it. It literally gets its correction data directly from the tablet and sends it back. So again, this is a really inexpensive. These are like $2,000, and they work great. And again, centimeter accurate, and again, a very fast fix. Just a good equipment. Of course, this is a Samsung Tab 5 Active. This is my latest acquisition. This is the latest version. This is like, I think, a 7-inch tablet. Again, this version here actually has a SIM card slot. So again, if you just had this tablet here and just this antenna, that's really all you need to actually locate. And what's really cool too is that with this particular antenna, what's really great about these is that MLID has set this up to where you can actually have your own corrections. So let's just say you did have a disaster. Let's say the internet is down. You can actually set this up. Now, you would need 2 of these to use the LoRa system, but let's just say if the internet is up, but say all the base stations are down, you could use this and actually get corrections on this device. And actually, so again, the nice thing I like is that the technology is here, so there's really no reason to not be able to get RTK, which is again centimeter accurate data real time. So, anyways, that's the setup.
We've come so far over the years in our data collection and what it used to be. I think the idea out there right now is that it's as rugged as and just clunky to use as it's always been. But I think even just you showing what you're using right now, it's a compact, small, easy to transport setup for very little cost for what you're getting. I mean, can you imagine your cost savings?
This is really what you need. Again, this is an Android phone, and this, or even an iPhone in this. It's compatible, it works, it's fantastic. And like I say, it's too easy not to do. And what's really great about this is, let's just say you did have your employees out in the field and they had the cloud, they could actually get to a job site, turn on their phone, turn on the GPS antenna. Basically, you know the area you need to work, hit the center button on the app, and it'll actually center you in the area you're working. Then you select the utility that you want, you literally hit stake, you hit nearest, and it's taking you to that asset real time. So again, very, very powerful tool, very low cost, very efficient. I mean, I hate to say appointment, you guys have knocked it out of the park. And of course, you know, paired with the newer technology that we have available, whether it's Trimble, whether it's Emlid, whether it's Leica, whomever, you know, again, whether it's radio detection or even whether it's, again, VLOC, Metrotech, this is really a fantastic machine. Both work great with the app. And again, it's relatively inexpensive. And I always say too easy not to do, you know.
No, definitely. I mean, between your years of experience and the comprehensive deliverables that you've been able to provide, I'm going to go ahead and just call you the industry expert here. You and Brock both. But you know, from the industry expert's opinion, right? Is there like an area of utility restoration that you think needs significant improvement? I know that's kind of probably a summary of the last question we touched on, but what would you prioritize for improvement in enhancing this for future resilience?
The biggest thing is the best time to collect the data is when you're putting it in the ground, obviously. And what's really great, again, use GPS antenna, 2-meter pole, collect open trench. That's the best time. But the nice thing I like about PointMan is it's versatile. Again, these locate machines can actually identify and very, very accurately identify the location of underground facilities. You push one button on these machines and it actually sends the data to this tablet. So you can actually get 4-dimensional data on your newly installed utilities, but also on your historical. So you could have a line that's been in the ground 20 years. And matter of fact, we had some lines out there on Fort Myers Beach that, you know, had been in the ground and we really didn't have good data. And I was actually able to, since we had the line dug up and we were cutting and capping it, I was able to hook to that wire directly and actually collect data to correct some of the information that we had. So again, the nice thing about it is that with these different tools, and again, their price point, it is very easy to correct and add, you know, good data on your system. And not only that, let's just say that you have, let's say, a plastic, you know, service line or main, let's say, or let's say a concrete pipe for that example, or say a steel line that's not locating really good because it may have holidays in the coating, or let's say you have a copper line. Again, there's partners out there that we have. You know, we have the Reduct and we have, I think, EnviroCal, who actually use gyroscopic mapping tools to actually collect the location of the underground facilities. And then, you know, what's really great is that you can take that data, you know, and a lot of times they'll give it to you as a KML file or KMZ file, and actually go out and stake the location. So here you can take undetectables and turn them into, you know, detectables. And so in other words, you know, a line, I was saying, a line that doesn't locate is not an asset, it's a liability. And what PointMan does, and with all these different partners, it actually allows you to turn those liabilities into assets. And at the end of the day, that's what we all want to do. We don't want accidents waiting to happen out there. So that's why I'm really excited about PointMan. That's why I like to use it. And that's why I really want to basically educate anybody and everybody about, you know, what this technology does and how easy it is to do. This isn't something elite. I mean, if I can do it, I mean, you know, anybody can do it.
I mean, it's a story heard time and time again, right? It's the utility owner installing the line, 2 weeks later going back to either do some maintenance or some checkup or put in a line next to it and hitting the brand newly installed line because of lack of mapping, because of lack of precision. And it's no longer a massive production to get that data into a system that's stakeable. It is as simple as, you know, putting a GPS on the line when it's open trenched. And that's just for greenfield installs. I mean, it works just the same for brownfield. I know you pulled your locators out just a minute ago, but just the exact same experience. So, you know, getting to a more personal level here, what are some of the most challenging moments for you as a leader or industry expert in these situations? And Brock, if you want to jump in here as well and, you know, share some of those, or how managing these crises has affected your approach to utility management and disaster preparedness.
Hey,
Sure.
Brock, you want to handle it? Because I've been talking a lot, so I'll let you.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Well,
Right.
you know, if you don't mind, Lily, I'll go back and I'll kind of transition to that, this current question back. I'll go back a little bit from
Yeah.
what one of your points you made. So the question is like what utility that we've seen that seems to have the most difficulty during a national disaster or in this case, a hurricane restoration. I think they all do. And I think there's not many that I've seen of utility companies that really take the effort to know where the infrastructure is. So I think they're all lacking. And I hate to call names out, but there's a city here in our area, Fort Myers, where they don't have great records, of their utilities. So let's say in the case of a disaster, you think about essential services that need to have services, right? You think hospitals, assisted living facilities, airports, government buildings, businesses, right? So if you have a good inventory of your utility, you'll be able to prioritize who gets services faster, right? And then you're not just scrambling trying to figure out where your infrastructure is and what got damaged, what can you fix immediately. So I think that's kind of like the difficult you see with utility companies that they don't have great records. So, as an engineer and myself and pulling a lot of permits, we do a lot of data collecting, for design purposes, of course, but what we could do is and I actually am going to have a conversation with the city to sit down with them and see if we can help build their GIS system with the data that we've already collected over the last 10 to 12 years. So, and I think it would be attractive for them to partner with us because we know pretty much what most stuff is. I mean, you get with some of these locators and inspectors and you'll probably end up showing them where their stuff is before they can tell you where theirs is, so yeah, it's interesting conversation, but I think, that's kind of like the, frustration is, you start seeing, most utility companies, they don't keep great records. I'm not saying not all, not that they don't keep records at all, but you see going back legacy pipe that's been in the ground 10, 12, 15, 20 years. In some cases, they just don't have the records to know where it is. And a lot of the times because they depended on paper as-bills. And now we're trying to show them paper as-bills is a thing of the past. We need to start thinking electronic as-bills now because you can access that data, whether it's in the cloud, which, Appointment has a great, cloud system, or if it's just a standalone system, you can always use that data. You can always find that line. You can always go back to that data for in perpetuity. As long as that pipe is in the ground, is active, it can be located. So that's where we're trying to re-educate the cities, the utility companies that, hey, there's a better way to inventory pipe in the ground so that when in case of emergency, you're not scrambling looking for paper as-bills.
Yeah.
It almost drives a person crazy when you're rebuilding after a disaster and there's a push to, build back better to prevent further damages. And then paper maps gets thrown into the conversation. It almost drives a person crazy. We live in a technology age. Why are we still documenting on paper? The ability to recall that information. I mean, can you imagine pulling a soggy piece of paper out of these piles to try to locate your utilities? It's such an old way of thinking that it drives me crazy when referencing these utilities. So how does that precise utility location data that even Pointman can capture contribute to this objective, and how can you share how access to this data can reduce risks and improve resilience for future disasters?
Well, I'd like to speak on that. One of the biggest things that, again, I found that a lot of utilities don't have good records, but the reason why they don't have good records is not for lack of trying. They spend millions and billions of dollars trying to do something. And unfortunately, a lot of unscrupulous salespeople have taken advantage of their desire to do what they're supposed to do. The thing about it is that unfortunately, I think a lot of people think that Pointman is just another one of those gimmicks that doesn't work. And when I talk to people, I tell them, look, I don't even care about getting you guys signed today. It's all about getting you signed even next year because you realize we have a relationship and what we have actually works. If you go to any organization, you look in their closets, there's all these gimmicks and gadgets that were supposed to actually work. The crazy thing about it is when something actually does work, well, they're thinking, oh, it's just the same old, same old. Well, the thing is I'm here to let people know this actually works. And just give it a chance, give it a shot. You can download the app for free, for 15 days. And again, like I said, it's not that these municipalities and, utilities for lack of trying. It's just that unfortunately you got some unscrupulous salespeople. But like I said, hey, I'm just a design tech. I found this technology. It works great. It's helped me improve what I do. I can go from virtual reality to reality. And speaking of, paperless, what we can do now is if you have a survey grade, CAD file, I can actually, instead of just basically give my guys a tape measure and a set of paper plans, I can actually extract the public utility easement, the right-of-way line, and the running line. I can send them those 3 different files. And a lot of times I like to send them separately. So they can see exactly where they're supposed to go within a centimeter. And what's really cool about PointMan 2, not only does it give you the XY centimeter accurate, it actually even gives you a Z. So if you know, for example, what your current elevation is, and say your depth of cover needs to be 3 foot 3 inches, you can actually verify that you're at 3 foot 3 inches deep real time. And also guarantee that if you have a trench that's say 5 foot wide and you need to be 2 inches from the side, you can guarantee that PointMan is going to put you right there. So you could do this all without paper. And then let's just say when they're out there and they're installing this, they find there's something in the way. Again, because they have the boundaries of the PUE, they know how far they can go to the right or to the left. And then if they need to deviate, deviate. But then they could also use the PointMan app to actually capture the deviation. And that is the definition of an as-built. And so what PointMan will allow you to do is to create 3D. And obviously that's if your pipe, you make contact with the pipe itself. And then 4D, that's also, let's just say, with the locate machine as-built. So you can actually know exactly where your facilities are. And then what's even greater is you can actually take this data, insert it into Map 3D, which is a AutoCAD, Autodesk product, and Civil 3D, and make a 3-dimensional representation of the actual location of your underground facilities. And what's really great about that is, let's just say, obviously, the authority having jurisdiction decides they want to put in some sewer or water or whatever. What they can do is that if you had that data, they could design around the existing infrastructure rather than having them, move, or at least minimize the amount of infrastructure that has to move. Because at the end of the day, who pays for these relocations? Whether it's a utility, the constituents, which we share. So again, working smarter, not harder. We have tools, they exist. We have PointMan, and the nice thing about it is, again, you guys play nice with everybody. It doesn't matter where you get your technology. And speaking of paper, the other day I had someone come to me. They had some 20-year-old data. It was, I guess had some northern and eastern data points of a facility that was installed. Of course, I called my buddy Brock and says, Brock, what do I do with this? He basically showed me how to take that data, that northern and eastern, we put it in a notepad file, and we were able to import that into Map 3D, create a point file, and then we went ahead and connected those points, and we created a line file, and then sent that to PointMan, and was able to send it to our partners at radio detection. They were able to use the RD8200SG to actually stake out 20-year-old data that was only available on a piece of paper. So the cool thing about PointMan is that, again, it doesn't matter where your data comes from. Obviously, when it's accurate, we can get you back. And that's to me the groundbreaking, possibilities, is that it can guarantee you, get you back to that location centimeter accurate. And again, it's real. And that's the thing I hope people understand. It's real. We'll show you how to do it. No smoke and mirrors. And that's key. So that's why I love PointMan. That's why I think it's great. And I just thank you guys for the opportunity to be able to, just share some of my experiences.
Yeah, certainly. And it's those sort of incredible testimonies, that we're looking for. Every established company that I talk to, I'm hearing exactly that from, which is we have a closet full of things that we've paid for that, say they're going to do this, say they're going to do that. And we have data collectors, we have devices, we have GPS locators, specific tablets just for these certain softwares. And none of it really does the full field definitive finish. Yeah. None of it really does that stake back. None of it can really hold and maintain the integrity of that data for the time that it needs to. And I think you said it exactly there, Ken. We'd love to put it in people's hands and let the product speak for itself. Let it show that it does everything field to finish. You can stake back to that 20-year-old data with, a couple clicks of a button. You can get
Yeah, it's funny
Hey,
you say
sorry to
that.
interrupt really quick. Before we get too far, I want to leave a little bit of time for questions. So if anybody has any questions, drop in the Q&A, and we'll get those answered really quick. But Ken, continue. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, I actually had an opportunity, again, with my radio detection partners. We had an opportunity to go, and I won't mention the county, to a county here in Florida, and we were able to show them how to eat the elephant, start to finish. Went out to the field, collected electrical line that was underground, had to send it to the GIS team. They took the GIS team, put it in AutoCAD, and we basically had some artifacts. We actually collected data on another file, but that was good. We were able to clean that data up, send it to ArcGIS. It went into ArcGIS, and then I had the guy take the data out of ArcGIS and send it back to his technician in the field on another device. And we were able to stake right back accurately to the data. So again, we're willing to do that. We're willing to show you how to eat the elephant. We're willing to show you that this stuff does work. And I definitely wouldn't be here wasting my time if it didn't, because, you know, I got too many more important things to do, you know.
Absolutely. One bite at a time, Ken, one bite at a time.
That's it.
So
That's it.
switching gears one last time here. Speaking to FEMA's role in recovery, I know that FEMA can be a significant resource during recovery, but there may also be challenges in navigating their process. So how has their involvement helped, or in some cases, even hindered the recovery process? Are there improvements you think could streamline future support for utility restoration?
Personally, yes. And the thing is, I really don't think FEMA knows we exist. And I'm hoping that this will kind of help, you know, address that. Again, how many times have they been sold bills of goods that really aren't worth the paper they're written on? So again, if we could somehow present and show them, and we'd be more than willing to demo, you know, meet with them and show them how this works, and show them how that the resources that they're allocating, because again, resources are limited, to show them how we can show them how to truly build back better. And that's what they want. I know that's what all municipalities want. Everybody wants to be good stewards of the resources that they've been charged, you know, and, you know, to be responsible for. So again, if there's someone out there who has a contact at FEMA, if they have any questions, by all means, please tell them to get in contact with us, and we'd be more than willing to show them how to do this, how to eat the elephant. You know, we done caught the school bus. We want to show you how to take it apart and put it back together. And it's really an easy process. So, and relatively inexpensive. And so that way the dollars that, you know, our taxpayers, again, the constituents are paying, can go a lot further to make our communities more resilient and more ready and safer, not just for hurricanes, but any type of, you know, disaster, come whatever. Because again, you know, heaven forbid, there's lots of things that unfortunately that can and will happen, you know.
Yeah, no, definitely. Thank you for that. And I only have one more question here, and anyone can feel free to hop in and answer this or give your insight on it. But in terms of risk mitigation and future planning, you know, where you guys are located, Fort Myers, Florida is especially vulnerable to hurricanes. So what are you doing to prepare for, you know, future mitigation strategies for utility infrastructure and storms? I know this is kind of what the whole webinar has been about, but is there anything specific that you would like to highlight that, you know, as steps moving forward, anything that you'd like to share with anyone for what they could do and what approach you'll be taking?
Well, I'll go ahead and answer this real quick too. One of the things is that I try to let people know, collect data. And I don't necessarily care how you collect it accurately. And if you need a way or a methodology to do so, I'm more than willing to show you an inexpensive, efficient way to do it. So for me, it's just all about saying, hey, we don't have to just settle and just think, oh, our fates are sealed. We can actually make a difference. We can prepare. But it's just a matter of having the right tools. And again, having somebody that's going to just tell you the truth and not just trying to take your money. And that's the thing I like about Point Man. Again, originally when I found Point Man, you know, you guys actually sent me a kit. You sent me a GPS antenna. You sent me a tablet. You really sent everything when I was able to actually check this technology out and try it. And it worked. And of course, to me, I'm real simple. If it works, it works. So that's why I've been using it ever since, you know. But if somebody's got something better, I'm all ears. I want to hear about it. I mean, because again, I want the best technology available, but I've yet to find anything. And again, I appreciate the fact that you guys are agnostic. Most people, most companies, you know, might be able to dust off some of those tools that they have in the closets, and we may be able to show them actually how to make those productive investments rather than just paperweights, you know.
Certainly. Absolutely. Brock, anything that you wanted to share with that, or sure, Lawrence?
Yeah, I'll add to that. Yeah, I think like Ken said, I mean, you know, I'll use a biblical reference, people thought Noah was crazy when he was building an ark when it was sunny outside, right? So that's what utility companies need to be doing. They need to, while the weather's good, it's perfect out here, they need to be saying, how do we ironclad our systems? How do we make sure our GIS data is up to date? How do we make sure our databases are up to date? So we're trying to encourage utility companies to start doing a mass inventory of your systems. Appointment, what better app to use than Appointment, because it's easy to use. It's easy to teach your staff, say if you got locators, inspectors, to use it, while they're doing new construction. They can be using Appointment to start taking good inventory of new construction. Because right now, construction hadn't stopped in Fort Myers in Florida. It's still booming. So now is the time to take an inventory of not only that's what's existing, but new stuff that's going on. So that's what we're trying to educate utility companies, cities and county and state governments, is take good inventory, because when that day comes to be able to go reference it, you want to be able to have, all the tools in the toolbox readily available for you.
There's no better day than today. If anything that we've said today resonates with anyone, whether this is something that you're currently going through, whether it's, something that would be nice to have for future reference, collect on a sunny day so that, when you do have to prepare for disaster, or when you're dealing with the recovery, it becomes all that simpler. Let us know, reach out to us. We do demos online. We'll do virtual, demonstrations of that. We'll even come see you on site if necessary. Garrett, I'm sure we'll plug more resources after the webinar as well. But we'd love to chat with you and show you guys how we can do exactly what Ken and Brock have been talking about, but with your team.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Lily, for hosting the webinar. We appreciate you, Ken, Brock, and Sir Lawrence for joining us. It's a big topic right now, just with all the hurricane damage that's happened. But end of the webinar, once you jump off, there'll be a little quick survey. Hopefully, you enjoyed the topic that we discussed today. Suggest some future topics so we can add on to these webinars. I think they're really informative. And if you want a demo, there's an option on there too for us to reach out to you. So just click yes on that if you need a little bit more in-depth tutorial on Appointment. So, but for now, thanks everybody. We're gonna jump off and get you back to your day. Oh yeah, Ken, go ahead.
Real quick, again, feel free to share these answers with whomever is on the webinar, because again, there's a lot of information in there as far as like what specific pieces of equipment that they can use. Again, I just want to share as much as I can, and I tried to include that data in the questionnaire that you gave me. So again, please feel free to share it. I just wanted to let you know.
No, great resource there for sure. So thanks, Ken, and always, you're awesome. Everybody's awesome. Brock, Sir Lawrence, we appreciate you. Lily, we'll talk to you all later.
All right, have a good day.